Greetings. I hope everyone out there in YouTube land is having a good day. Usually I do tarot card readings for the mystics and the dreamers out there. My name is Belle. I hope you take a look at some of my other YouTube videos as well if you're interested. I have a lot of tarot card readings. Today I want to talk about poetry and the reasons that I write poetry. Very recently I've started writing what I would call these epic poems. I don't know if they're technically an epic length. They're kind of like 2 or 3 pages of stanzas, but it's epic to me. So I like to call it my epic poetry. It's basically kind of a free association, or I don't know if I'd say free association, but it's like a flow that I get into, and I'm able to write a lot in a notebook and then I type it up later. So what I'm going to be doing is using my blog as the place where I have the poem printed out so you can read it, and I'm also going to put videos with each of the poems so you can hear me reading the poem as well, so you can get the hearing the poem and viewing the poem in words. I wanted to talk a little bit about the writing process for me and what the background of that is for me, because it's pretty personal, but at the same time it's something I do want to share. A lot of times people will say your life path or your spiritual path is a spiral path, and to me that means, a lot of people have said this, you come back around to things a couple of times and you keep moving forward even though you might repeat a few ideas. So the way that I've been experiencing writing the poetry is that it's been a lot of imagery from my psyche that has kind of been spitting itself forward, and it's been really cathartic to write the poetry, although it has been somewhat disturbing at the same time because it's a lot of weird imagery. But I have found that by being honest about the poetry and about what I want to write and about what that imagery really is, it's actually helped me to be a healing process, and at the same time as an art form or a form of expression through the poetry. So the reason that it's so disturbing, part of the thing maybe is that right now, I guess it's 2015, in the past when I was younger, I had some pretty disturbing experiences where I would get so stressed out that I would actually have experiences where I faced insanity. And I'm still healing from that, and I'm still trying to integrate the imagery and the disturbing nature of insanity into my psyche, I think, because it's a very kind of brutal and disturbing or just difficult knowledge or experience to have. So by facing and remembering insanity through the imagery of poetry, it has really been helping me heal. I looked up a quote. I thought it was from Joseph Conrad. It actually turns out it's probably from Nietzsche. I'm not sure exactly what it's from, but there's that quote, if you stare into the abyss will look back at you. So that just kind of, to me that quote is trying to communicate a sense of horror and a sense of what's disturbing, and a sense of possibly that could be referring to insanity when you're looking at the abyss or the void, and I don't know if it always looks back at you or not, but it's definitely an experience that you don't forget. And I think that possibly after you've been through that experience, you're so out of it at the time, people might think, your friends or family might think that you've forgotten what it was like to have that experience, because we don't always talk about these things socially. It's not the first thing you bring up in a conversation, right? It's like, I'd like to talk to you about my facing insanity, but it's actually something that I do remember. I fully remember that experience of insanity, and it's not pleasant, but it has been something that has shaped who I am now as I've healed from it in different ways. I think there's a little bit of a lag in the video, so hopefully that isn't too bad. So as I write this poetry, it's a spiral of different imagery with a lot of different metaphors. I think art and free expression are great ways to heal. And I have a few notes here. Obviously, insanity, or going beyond all social norms, is pretty darn disturbing to most people, maybe as it should be, I'm not sure. It's kind of like that ultimate line that you feel like you shouldn't cross. Usually we want to be able to communicate effectively with people, we want to be understood. But it's kind of interesting because based on how stressed out I was and types of things I was thinking about back then, insanity was definitely my authentic experience at that time. So that is kind of a strange balance, the fact that our society does not really condone insanity at all, but the fact that insanity can actually be someone's real, authentic experience for what they're going through in their life at that point. It definitely changed me. Now, years later, it's still probably the most, I don't want to say profound, but it's the most important experience in different ways that I've ever had. And I'm still healing from it, and I still feel like it changed me in ways that, not that I won't heal, but it's changed me in ways that you don't just forget or get over. You have to integrate that type of disturbing thing into your whole psyche, into your whole sense of self. So, I wanted to give you this background if you're going to listen or read the poetry, because the writing poetry recently has really helped me integrate disturbing imagery and helped me integrate that experience of insanity. And it's kind of interesting because through the writing process, things that had kind of been haunting me in different ways, and I don't mean haunting in a real sense, kind of as a metaphor, but the writing process really unleashes a lot of that imagery onto the paper or onto the computer screen, and it's really cathartic, it's really refreshing, like a free expression without censorship. It's just like a really good feeling. So I think it's actually one of the most effective and the best ways to deal with the past experience of insanity. And I don't think reading my poetry will make you insane. I think it will expose you to a little bit of disturbing imagery, but it's actually not that disturbing in the full sense of like what people are into these days in different necks of the woods. I think it's actually probably not that disturbing, but to me it's like this kind of like dark or just kind of like haunted imagery. I talk a lot about zombies and demons, and I'm not really talking about it in a real sense. I'm talking about like this really metaphoric and trying to use imagery to be really expressive. Thank you for listening, and I'm going to post the link to my blog. So on the blog, and within the next few days, I'm going to have the written form of my poetry, and then I'm going to have a video in the same blog post of me reading the poetry. Thanks a lot for listening. If you have any questions for some reason, please feel free to post them. Thanks a lot.